we're talking about content that converts again today,
Yes.
and we're specifically focused on an audience I serve, which are digital product sellers.
Yep.
I would argue you serve this audience as well. You probably have some coaches that are also selling digital products.
Yeah, there's definitely some overlap for sure.
Yeah,
A pretty typical model is like, you start off doing one-to-one services as a coach or as a service provider.
yeah.
And then as you really get a lot of like traction with that, you can kind of like also think about adding one-to-many offers, right,
Mhm.
into your suite. So sometimes those are digital products. So yeah, I would say that's true. Yep.
I know the title of this says e-commerce. We're talking about
Oh,
e-commerce from the standpoint of digital product sellers today.
okay.
Um, while we were chatting, we kind of realized that maybe it was going to be too difficult in this time that we have available to talk about both digital and physical.
Yeah.
If you want tips on like blogging or creating content for physical product sellers, I have content on my website. You
Okay.
can go check it out. Um,
Cool. Maybe I'll
that's
drop a
not,
couple of links in the description so people who came for that
yeah,
can go there. Okay.
that's not for Jana though. I'm not telling her to go read my blog. I'm just telling anyone that might be listening. But we're going to just start off kind of similarly to last week's live where Jana was in the hot seat, and her big tip, like open the door, is you're not a blogger, you're a product seller with a blog.
Yes. Yep.
And
Last week I said you're not a blogger, you're a coach with a blog because we were talking about coaches last week. But it's the same in this case, right? You're not a blogger, you're a product seller with a blog. So what does that mean to you?
oh my gosh. Well, it means to me that in a lot of cases, I don't have to worry about traffic declines to my blog because then
Right.
I'm not worried about my income from my ads on my website declining or my affiliate revenue declining. Um, when you are selling products, of course, you need traffic, but there's a different strategy to convert the traffic, and that usually goes back to like your messaging and how you're even sharing the products with people and how people are finding them, why they need them. Versus when you're a blogger, you might be just creating content on like, you know, how to grill. And there's really nothing that you're selling other than people's eyeballs. Like you're just monetizing
Right.
the eyeballs. So,
Right. Bloggers go like their ultimate goal is traffic because that's how they
yeah.
get paid for most of them. Most of them with ads if you have display
Yeah.
ads. Whereas product sellers, traffic is what we do want some of it, but we don't need as
Mhm.
much of it
Yeah.
as bloggers do. And traffic's not really our end goal. Our end goal is actually the conversions, right?
Yeah. For sure. So, given that you are a digital product seller and you're monetizing in a slightly different way, you don't have to worry as much. Like we all need traffic to our websites, but I feel like you're
Right.
not as heavily reliant on that traffic source. If one traffic source starts to decline, you have some time to work on it, you know, fix some things that might be going on, but in the grand scheme of things, you can continue to make offers and get people into your checkout carts because you have products to sell.
Right. Yep.
Now, a lot of my audience that are digital product sellers are selling in a multitude of ways. They might have traditional funnels, they might have an Etsy store, they might have a Shopify store. I have all three.
Oh,
And given that I have all three, it's really allowed me to open up different methods of bringing people in,
yep.
where they come in and they dump in at, and the experience they're going to go through in order to ultimately purchase from me.
Yep. Which is a
Um,
funnel, basically, even if
yeah.
it's not a formal funnel. Yeah.
So, one of the most important aspects of this whole thing is the content that you're creating, and that's what we're talking about today.
Yep.
So, bringing it back around, you're not a blogger, you're a product seller with a blog.
I love it.
My number, not my number one tip, but my first tip today is to um, like get you to start thinking about how you can talk about your products in your content, whether it's on threads, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on a blog or in your YouTube channel or your podcast, wherever you're creating content, whatever your preferred method is. How are you going to start creating content that helps bring your product into focus
Yeah. In the spotlight, really. Yep.
for your audience and
Right.
for people that would want to buy it? Because
Right.
people need to obviously know about the product, but they also will have a problem that your product's going to solve.
Yep.
So how do we do that? And
Yep. And it's
typically,
so important. And so many people like it sounds simple, but it's actually for a lot of people, it's really hard to figure out how to provide valuable content that does put your product front and center. So continue.
yeah. So as I think about this, I'm thinking about, what is the messaging around the problem that we're solving? So if you haven't sat down and figured out like what are all the problems that your product solves, it probably would be a good time to do that.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
What's the
Um,
messaging going to be around that? Like, how are we
yeah.
going to talk about those problems and this ultimate solution of your product?
Yeah. I'm going to ask you for an example, but I think it's this is so important because so many people, even people who are already selling products, but certainly a lot of people that are just developing products and putting them out on the market for the first time,
Mm.
when I ask them, and this goes for coaches and service providers to some degree too, but it happens a lot with product sellers in particular. When I ask them, like, what problems does your offer solve? What problems does your product solve? The answer is they tend to answer with something that's not really a problem. And so it can start getting you close to it, but like you have to kind of peel back the layers to find the problem. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think of an example. I don't know if you have one that you can kind of throw out there that.
Yeah, so for years I
Mhm.
struggled with, and I've sold my Pinterest system for years. One of the big problems that people have is pinning consistently,
Right.
but it's not necessarily the putting the pins on Pinterest consistently that's the actual problem. The
Right.
problem is all the way back at the beginning when they started creating content or they started creating products, they didn't build a system that was going to help them to actually put content out regularly on Pinterest or any platform for that matter, which is why
Yeah.
they're hazard on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, podcasting, blogging. Like there's no system that helps them actually get from point A to point Z. So the system really helps people to do that specifically for Pinterest, but also you could use my Pinterest system for any platform, really. What my system does, what problem it solves is it helps you to organize all of the content you have in your business.
So, but the problem is actually that your content right now is disorganized.
Correct.
Right. And that is causing other problems as well. So keep going.
Yeah. So the problem is you're just disorganized in your entire business. You don't know what affiliate links you have. You don't know what your top blog posts are. You don't know what products are even available. You've created so many now. Like, what do you even have in your business? Same with
Right.
blogs, same with Instagram content. There's like no organization in any of it. You have keywords, but they're in your brain.
Right.
We need to take all of that out and we need to put it in a place. That way we can see it on a sheet and we can actually see what we have available to us to market.
Right. So far I'm hearing that your system solves this problem that when you go to create pins, you don't even know what URLs to use because your URLs are everywhere, but
Yeah.
not in one place. And then I'm also hearing you're saying you go to create Pinterest pins and you're guessing about your keywords or winging it because you don't have something documented,
Mhm.
right? And so the Pinterest system actually gives you the place to document that, so it solves that problem in that way too.
Another problem it solves is you're not tracking your analytics.
Yeah.
You're not looking like you're looking at them, but you're not tracking them. So over time, you don't actually have an eye on what was happening 6, 8, 10 months ago.
Yeah.
Now today, maybe your traffic
Yeah.
is declining and you can't really figure out why.
Why? Right. So you're kind of making decisions like with your gut instinct, and a lot of times our gut, although it can be good, we make assumptions. And because I know, like, when I do actually end up looking at the data, I'm like, oh, okay, that's actually different than what I was assuming, you know? Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is a solution in the system for tracking your analytics. It's very
Yep.
basic, but it
Hmm.
works.
Yep.
So as we start to think about these things, we can start to create content around this.
Right. Love it. So
And maybe,
identifying what those problems are, even if it takes a little bit of like doing and like asking questions and peeling back the layers, like figure out what those problems are that your thing is solving for people.
yeah. And it might take having some conversations with people who've bought your product.
I
Ask
was
them
going to say
why
like
you
me,
bought
or
your product.
yeah.
Why'd you buy it? What is it helping you to do?
Yeah,
I
I
was
love that.
just building a Pinterest system with a student of mine on Friday, and she has written over 100 blog posts in about 9 months.
Amazing.
A lot of content.
Yeah.
And she had no organization for that. She didn't know what URLs she had been pinning recently. Like
Yeah.
there was no rhyme to the reason behind what she was doing.
Yeah.
And then, so right now she's in a phase of like pause on creating new content while she starts to organize the existing content, getting email offers in there, getting product offers in there. Um, but she didn't have eyes on this. And all you have is a list of 10
Yep.
pages of blog posts on your website editor. Like, where do you even know where you left off or
Right.
what's there? Like,
Right. Right. And I'm also hearing
it's just a mess.
this is an interesting exercise, and I just want to point out like this is the kind of exercise that everyone should be going through, right?
Yeah.
This is like we're like literally like modeling it right now. I'm also hearing that there is like kind of or there could be like a lack of confidence that happens when you don't have all this in one place. You're like, well, I don't know if I just pinned that URL a week ago. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't know. Um, yeah. So when you don't know what you did recently and you're not remembering and you're kind of like trying to store it all in your brain and you don't have it in one place to really review, it kind of results in like this lack of confidence and lack of like clarity that you otherwise, if you did have that confidence and clarity, you would be more consistent with the pinning. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like where the root of that problem is like when people aren't consistent, it's usually not just because, they're like, lazy or don't know how to do it or something. It's usually, this issue, this lack of system. So, okay.
Yeah.
Good exercise.
So I would like everyone to go through that kind of exercise with their products and really
Yep.
figure out what problems are you solving and what messaging are you going to use around those problems. Now, some of the things just right out of the gate that people can use for content are the questions that people are asking you before they buy.
Yep.
Gold mine.
Mm.
And then like you've probably written some FAQs about your products. You can also start to use some of those. You've
Yeah.
already probably thought through some of the use cases of your product. So an FAQ section is probably a really fast way to go grab some like top line messaging points.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, technically my main offer is a digital product, although high leverage content is a course with some support as well. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit more than a course, but at its heart, it's got a curriculum and it's a course. And I will tell you, whenever I write FAQs for my website, I always like have a hard time writing only 2 or 3 sentences. Like I want to write so much more. So if there's any FAQs that you're writing on your sales page that you wish you
Yeah,
had more space to write more, that's probably a good hint that that would make a good blog post, right?
exactly. Oh, that's a good
Mhm.
tip. Yeah, because FAQs aren't written like, how should I wash this blanket? Like FAQs are written very strategically with strategic messaging,
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
when done well.
right.
Okay, moving on. Tip number two is
I feel like you've already dropped like 8 really good tips, but go ahead. Okay, tip number 2.
is to highlight the use cases of your product. So I recently worked with a client and they sold leather backpacks. I work with a lot of leather brands. I don't really know why. They were selling leather purses and leather like slouch purses and like backpacks and all sorts of things. So if you have like a backpack brand or a bag brand or like a clothing brand, like what are all of the ways that someone can use your product?
Mhm.
Right? So the same thing can be true for digital products. This might be
Yeah.
harder for digital product sellers to start to think about,
No,
but
but if
like,
you start by thinking about how it would work for physical and then apply that to thinking about how you would think about your digital product, then it would go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah.
can see where you're going. It's good.
So as I start to think about the Pinterest system, it can be used for Instagram, it can be used for Facebook, for TikTok. Like it's
Yep.
really not even just a Pinterest system, it's like a marketing system, like a marketing hub in your business. It's where everything goes. So you have an organized content library
Yeah.
of everything from
Yep.
affiliate links to the blog posts that you write or podcast episodes that you create or Instagram captions that you've written.
Yep.
Instead of just posting and forgetting about it, organizing that.
Yep.
So as you do that, I want you to highlight the use cases of your products. Can your ebook template be used for workbooks? Could it be used for a lead magnet? What are other ways that people are using your product? People
Yep.
are probably buying your products and using them in ways that you hadn't imagined.
That's true. Usually with
Yeah.
most successful products, digital products too.
So email your audience, email the buyers of your product, ask them how are they using it.
Yeah.
When
Yep.
people show me their unique Pinterest systems, I get so excited
Yeah.
because it gives me so many more ideas of like, oh, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
I never thought about putting the list of your current boards inside of your Pinterest system.
Yeah.
Now I've started incorporating that in because it does make so much sense.
Yeah. It's a good way to improve your product too, not just market it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I like marketing your product and improving your product often go hand in hand.
Yeah.
When you're really paying attention to how customers are using it, what people are doing. For me, that's like inside my program, but with a product, it's like what people are telling you and the, reviews and with the feedback. It's such a, like you said, a gold mine, not only for marketing, but just like product improvement too.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Because I don't know how much time we have. We didn't talk about that today. I want you to actually, as you're highlighting the use case of your products, you need to showcase your products. Okay. You need to sell your products in your content. We're not
Yes.
going to be like, oh my gosh, Susan, are you having this problem? And then never mention the product.
Right. Or spend so much time talking about the problem that you only have like, 2 lines at the end to,
Pitch the product.
yeah, to pitch your product. Your product should be front and center. Yeah.
Yes, please. That was a tip that Jana gave last week as well. And I think it's just so relevant for everyone. You have to create content that specifically showcases your product.
Yep. Yep. So I think there's kind of like 2 ways to do that. You can either reverse engineer and think, okay, I need to highlight my product. So what am I going to create to highlight it? So for example, what problem does it solve? That would be just one of many angles that you could kind of take on how to create something that's naturally going to lead into like a call, like a pitch and a call to action for your product.
Yep.
Or you can think, okay, I think it would be relevant for me to write about this topic. And before you start writing about it, plan it out and think about how you're going to transition naturally to pitching your product. And if there isn't a natural transition, then maybe that's not the piece of content that you want to spend time on.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of different ways that you specifically teach and high leverage content. And I've sent people your way. I've had my people in my membership join your course. I think Kiara
Thank
is
you.
one of your like little
I
testimonial
think, yeah,
cases.
I think she was actually one of the first people who ever purchased it,
That's
actually, way
amazing.
back when I first created it. Yeah.
Um, she has created digital products, I believe.
Hmm.
Um, she writes blogs that are helping her to attract clients. And in your course,
Yeah.
you teach people specifically types of content they can create. And you've taught me
Yeah.
over the years stuff too.
Yeah.
And
And UI.
I think as you start to write blog posts or do podcast episodes or YouTube videos specifically about your products, you'll start to come up with other ideas of how to do this. But like
Hmm.
one really quick way to do this is with a specific kind of content. You almost want to review your product from your point of view. Like, I want you to write a blog or do like a dissertation basically on your product and cover like all of the things. What are the problems
Yeah.
people have? What are the solutions that this product solves? So
Yeah.
it's like showcasing your product. That's your main piece of content for that product.
So to write a review for your own product, I mean, do you literally mean write a review like you're actually reviewing it and publishing that, or do you mean write that in a way, as a way to brainstorm content topics?
Yeah, more the second. So
Okay.
I'm not talking about like, I would give this a 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
No,
Everything in my program is a 5 out of 5,
a 5 out of 5.
if you ask me.
No, I just mean like from the perspective of if you are reading a review on a product,
Yeah.
a blog post review on a product, for example, and I do this a lot. Um, Not because I'm like buying a lot of stuff, but like I do generally research things before I buy them. So
Yeah.
I want to know if I'm buying a piece of equipment, I want to know all about it. Like,
Yeah.
what are the bells and whistles? What are the features and benefits? What are the problems it solves? What are the solutions? What are the other ways I might be able to use this? And you can do this in a full-bodied piece of content. So this is like a pillar piece of content in your business. And it's going to be all about that thing. Kind of the reason why I say write a review for it is a lot of people don't understand how to even start writing content for.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a mindset trick, basically, to
Yeah.
think about it like a review of your own product. Okay.
Think
Yeah.
about it for a review because you know your product the best.
Yep.
So as you're thinking about that, think about how you can showcase that product in one solid piece of content. Now you might be asking yourself, why not just do that on a sales page? If you don't have a sales page and you're only selling on Etsy, this might be a good opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
But blog posts can be a bit of a sales page too. It's not really meant to be a sales page, but it is meant to sell the product.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yep.
So, and the
Great.
blog post, you have a very specific framework for a sales page. The blog post can kind of take that and play on it.
Right. Put the different pieces in context, kind of. That's another great way to get content ideas too, is to go to your sales page and think about
Yeah.
which sections of your sales page could inspire full length blog posts.
So, I feel like we've talked about a lot.
Yeah. What about mockups? I feel like we should talk about
Yeah.
that. I think with digital products especially, it's important to know what your resources are for mockups.
Yeah, so there are lots of tools you can use to create mockups. I create all of my mockups in Canva these days.
Yep.
Um, I have a client that does a really good job of creating mockups, and they're so beautiful. She literally takes the pages of her digital products and she like lays them on a surface digitally with like shadows, and it brings depth and it's just gorgeous.
Oh,
I think her design skills are far surpassing mine.
okay.
So we can just start with Canva.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't have to be that great.
Yeah, so a lot of my
Yep.
products I actually create in Canva. A lot of my templates that people buy are
Yep.
Canva templates. You can download those pages as PNG images and then re-upload them into Canva, and you can manipulate them. Canva has
Yeah.
released a slew of new features where
Yeah.
you can create mockups inside of Canva.
Yes.
And then all their new AI features as well, you can ask it to help you to create mockups. So you can take it a step further and even do that. We did a Canva feature thing recently where we kind of talked
Yeah.
about some of these.
Yeah, we did a live stream where we talked about some of our favorite new Canva features. If someone is listening to this and wants to go check that out, there were some cool new tools that we both learned about. It was like every time you said something, I was like, really? And every time I said something, you were like, really?
What?
That was good. Mostly me saying really to you.
Well, and they just released all their new stuff for the coming year because they just had their big create event.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's even more tools since then,
Yep.
like photo editing inside of Canva. You can
Amazing.
sheets.
Yeah.
You can create spreadsheets in Canva now.
I did not know that. See, we're doing it
Yes.
again. Really? Wow.
So,
Yeah.
mockups are really easy to do inside of Canva. Now, I generally do mockups in a bunch of different formats on computers, in tablets, and phones. I actually take the pages themselves and make mockups with them, like a
Yep.
spread. I think it's just an easy way to make marketing images with mockups.
Yeah. I have two main workflows for my mockups. One is if it's like a PDF ebook type of situation, like my lead magnets, because I want mockups for those too.
Mhm.
But you could do this for something you're selling that's more of a PDF type of situation too, or spreadsheets or anything, is I get them into a PNG format, which sometimes means I have to export them from one thing like a PDF to a PNG, drag them into Canva, into the uploads or wherever, and then put them into a design and like fan out the pages, add a
Mhm.
little bit of shadow behind all the pages, group them all so that they, stay in that fan when I drag things around,
Yep.
and then use it that way. Like that's one way that I do a mock-up.
Yeah.
And then just download it with like a transparent background, and then I can drag that image back into the uploads and use that anywhere I want to add it. And then the other one, as you mentioned, is with the mockups now with the images. So I think my workflow for that right now is blank page in Canva or whatever. You drag in the PDF cover or whatever it is that you want to show, if it's a spreadsheet that you're selling, whatever it is. And then you go to like the edit area to the tools, mockup, and then it'll show you what your options are in different categories. So it'll be like, do you want to put this on a laptop? Do you want to put this on a phone? Do you want to put this on a tablet? You choose which category, and then within those categories, you choose what image you want to try out, hit the image, and it actually takes your page that you drew, your thing, and it puts it in. And you can
Yeah.
kind of keep switching it up until you have something you like.
I
So
really
those are like
like that.
yeah. We used to be that website. Remember, it was like
Smart
Mockups R
mockups.
Us or something. What was it called? Smart
Smart
Mockups. That's
mockups.
right. Yeah. And
So
then they got
this
absorbed into Canva, right?
this
Isn't that what
feature
happened?
is
Yeah.
smart mockups. They
Yeah.
partnered with smart mockups to actually have them inside of Canva.
Mhm.
Maybe Canva bought them. I don't really know, but
Yeah.
there used to be like 3 or 4 options for smart mockups inside of Canva, and then you actually had to go to the website to do it. But there's so many options now. You can do bags, you can do books, you can do art on walls, you
Oh
can
yeah,
do
I forgot all about that, right? It
tablets,
doesn't have to be,
phones.
right?
Yeah, so if you are a physical product seller watching this, there's so many different mock-up options you can do
Yep.
inside Canva these days as well.
Yeah.
No, I think mock-ups definitely have a place for everybody. Physical to digital, it's just a
Mhm.
really great way for you to showcase your product. Um, you can even turn them into videos if you wanted to. So my client
Oh
that does
yeah. Animate
mock-ups
them.
so well, she will take all the pages and animate them
Wow.
and bring that animation back into Canva as a file, like an MP4, and then we'll use that for pins.
She should create a digital course about how to create mockups.
I'm gonna tell her this. She can probably write a blog post on it.
Okay, I'll
I
accept that.
actually asked her the other day. I sent her a message in Slack and I was like, hey, some of your product lines are missing the animated video. Can you tell me how to do it so I can make them for the products going forward as I'm making pins?
Yeah.
I haven't heard back from her yet because she lives in Portugal. But um, I'm sure she'll tell me how to do it and I'll be able to do it for her products. But I'm going to mention that to her that she should do because she's already selling
Yeah.
Canva templates. So, like, how do you then take this and display it in a beautiful way? Great.
Yeah.
I'm going to pass it
Yeah.
along.
Cool.
All right. So, the
Okay.
last thing I really have
Yep.
is highlighting your reviews or testimonials that you got for your products as
Okay.
because nothing helps someone jump over the fence faster than seeing other people being successful with your product.
Yeah, social proof.
Yeah,
Okay.
so good. It's so powerful. Um, I don't have any like tips on how to get the testimonials because I mean, I told you before we went live, I'm really bad about asking for them.
Well, I think if I were, I mean, for me, actually, I was saying if I were wanting to do that, but I do that on my business. I have a collection system that I use that uh Jocelyn from Scale Your Resonance set up for me and her inside her like program that's all about getting case studies and
Yeah.
testimonials. And I think my biggest tip, if someone were wanting to get more testimonials, social proof case studies, is to figure out a system and just automate the heck out of it because
Yeah.
it's really hard to remember to ask people, and it also can be awkward to ask people. So if you just automate it, like you don't even have to think about it. And then it's interesting because when you automate it, you start getting them without even asking for them, and you're like, oh, lovely, you know? So that would be
I
how I would
love
go
that.
about it. Yeah.
I just don't know how, like, I have mine set up and automated. So when someone cancels, they'll get an email from me with the link to the form, but they don't
Yeah.
have to fill it out.
Well, they just canceled, so maybe that's not the best time to ask. We can talk about
It's
that.
the wrong time to ask.
Maybe.
Yeah. So using testimonials though
Yep.
is a really great way to help people to understand that your product actually is helping people in the real world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you could do a blog post highlighting a case study that was a
Yeah.
testimonial. You got a really good testimonial. Let's turn it into a case study.
Yep.
Make a blog post on it.
Yep.
Be a really great way.
Absolutely.
And you can turn that into multiple pieces of content on social media using Jana's tip from last week, which is to repurpose.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, can I ask one more question that might mean you give a bonus tip?
sure.
Okay. How can product sellers, especially let's talk about digital product sellers, especially use gift guides?
Yeah.
What's a gift guide?
Oh,
How can they use them?
I forgot to mention this in the highlight use cases of your products. I have some examples of blogs that you can write or content you can create
Oh,
types. So I mentioned the review style content,
right.
but like gift guides are a great way to showcase your product in a short, like roundup style way,
Yep.
where you kind of like if you're selling, I don't know, let's say you're selling templates for,
Meal
I don't
planning.
know, books. Yeah, meal. Okay, let's say meal planning. Then you have templates for meal planning. Sorry. My my phone is going off. And I'm getting distracted. So let's say you have a template for meal planning and then you have a system for meal planning. So it's a template you sell and then you have a bigger product that you sell afterwards.
Yep.
You could definitely have those two products in a gift guide, but like what are your other favorite meal planning like accessories? Are there
Oh,
apps
things that
that
you
Yeah.
Not your own products, but other people's or
Maybe
yeah.
not your own products.
Mhm.
Yeah, you could showcase other people's products alongside yours, or you could just
Yeah.
make it a gift guide with all of the different products that would help someone in their life with meal planning.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that
So
idea. I think there's a couple things I would think about with it. One is like trying to be niched whenever you can would be a really good idea.
yeah,
So
for
like
sure.
maybe you do, you have meal planning spreadsheets that you sell, and maybe you're going to do a whole thing that's going to be like for like um, gluten-free or kosher or right, or gluten-free kosher. I actually I
You
had a
actually do
client.
that.
I had a client for Pinterest. 4 or 5 years ago now, we set up her Pinterest profile, and she was a health coach for moms who are kosher and gluten free. I was like, talk about
Wow.
niche, but she was, she did great, and she was so specific because there's a lot of gluten free people in the Jewish community and
Yeah.
who also keep kosher. So just it happened to be like her thing, it's something she had mastered and was coaching people around. Um, so like having a gift guide, maybe that's a little specific for a gift guide, but something like kosher or gluten free would be good. And then the other thing I was thinking about with gift guides was I forget what it was. So you're not saying necessarily, I mean, I guess you could take it to the next step and have affiliate links, but that's not the point of this. The point is simply to put your product in context and in a piece of valuable content that purposely, intentionally highlights your product and
Yeah.
really sells your product. Right. Okay.
Yeah. And people love to give gifts, and even digital products are great gifts to give. I'm in a book club. I've been in it for several years now, and every single time she launches this book club, people buy seats in the book club to give as gifts because they love it so much.
Oh, cool.
So a gift guide is actually a great way, especially with your current set of buyers, to help
Yeah.
them give your product as a gift to other people.
Yeah.
Maybe they never even thought about it.
Yeah.
So a piece of gift guide content could help them think about it.
Yeah.
Um, just a few other like types of like content you could create. This blog post was written specifically for like writing blogs, but this could be any platform. You can do how-to guides. If there's anyone in your industry that is kind of influential in what you're doing, you could always, go interview them, or you could have someone interview you and create content out of that.
Oh,
I interviewed you for one of your summits a few years ago,
yep.
and that was such a good piece of content. Like it was so good. You
Yeah.
can write,
Interviews are great because they give you that like
yeah,
back and forth and new ideas come out. So yeah. Mhm.
yeah. First person narratives about not only about your brand, but like about why you created the product in the first place.
Yeah.
Um,
That's one of the things I encourage people to write about in high leverage content is your why story, not necessarily why you started your whole business, but
yeah.
why you created this particular offer.
And then the last little tidbit or type of content you can create on is industry news or updates. I've been doing this a lot more lately, as I've taken on the role in the educator community, of sharing like updates that are
Yeah.
happening on Pinterest more widely, rather than like in a really narrow focus of like, oh, this new feature is happening on Pinterest and here's how you use it. Um, Creating more like content or emails or blog posts specifically on updates that are happening.
Wait,
Giving
different,
people.
explain the difference again for us.
Yeah, so there was a recent change on Pinterest that happened, and then they published an update about it. It was about the visit site button. There's an algorithm update that happened. Some people lost their visit site buttons, and then they came right back quickly. Most
Yeah.
people, some
Typical.
people might be still hearing or
Yep.
seeing this
But for
happening.
20 minutes, a lot of people were freaking out.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So what I did is
Not literally 20 minutes, but yeah, sorry.
I took a piece of content that Pinterest created.
Hmm.
I wrote a blog post, really short blog post about it, and put it on my website. So if people are Googling Pinterest visit site button,
Yep.
hopefully my piece of content will come up for them.
Okay. That works well for you because you have very, very strong domain authority.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you've
But
been blogging for a long time.
if you are in a niche, in a super niche,
Yep.
paleo, gluten-free, kosher meals,
Yes.
people are probably searching for, if they hear a news article or something that came out from whatever
Yep.
update that's happening in this medical field or like changes to this or whatever, like you could
Yeah.
write about that.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
can use that to create content on your social media platforms or write emails to your list. So
Yep. Yep.
it does not need to be like a long-winded piece of content either. What's your take on it? There's this thing happened. What's your take on it?
Right.
How is this impacting your business now? How's this impacting your products that you sell, the clients that you serve, those kinds of
Yeah.
things.
Framing it that way is really good for Google too, because Google's looking for firsthand
Yeah,
observations from people. So yeah, really good.
that's it. That's all I have.
Those were awesome. We gave people a lot of really good ideas for content that converts for product sellers. Both we talked mostly digital products, but we sort of forayed into physical products a little too.
Yeah. Hopefully it's
Next,
helpful as people engage
yeah,
and interact. Which group are we
yeah.
talking about next week? Because
Yeah,
we
I
have
was
our
just
third
saying next week.
iteration on this.
Yeah, next week we're talking about content that converts for service providers. So people who don't do done for you services in the online space primarily, um, is who we're talking about next week.
So we'll both be able to engage in this conversation.
Yes, for sure, because we both used to be done for you service providers. You still have an agency, so that's part of the done for you service.
Yeah,
And I have done for you service providers, a lot of them in high leverage content too. So we'll have a good, robust chat next week about this. We'll offer at least five tips for content that converts for online service providers.
great.
See you
Well,
then.
we will see you then. In the meantime, I hope you guys all have a great day.
See you soon.
Cool.